Hello and welcome back to another edition of Viper Bites presented by the Fantasy Points Media Group. Head over to fantasypoints.com today and use promo code Vipers22 to save 10% off your subscription. Now let's talk about the series that we have going on here right now as we continue to look at the top 5 Dynasty fantasy assets here for each and every team here in the National Football League. Yes, that's 32 different teams we are taking a look at here. And now it's time to turn our attention to the Green Bay Packers. The Packers, they've had a little bit of turnover here, especially in the offensive skill positions here with Davonte Adams kind of heading over to Vegas, being traded there in the offseason, some players kind of being signed, some drafted players. So there's been a lot of different changes here in Green Bay. But one thing that has not changed is the quarterback play. Number 12, Aaron Rodgers, he is still there. And if Aaron Rodgers is still there, you know the Packers are going to be able to put up points. Now, for the first time since 2016, Aaron Rodgers will not have Davonte Adams. As I mentioned, he was traded to Vegas there earlier on in the offseason. So what has Aaron Rodgers been able to do in a short 11-game sample period in which he hasn't had Davonte Adams? Well, he's been able to throw for 2,795 yards, 24 touchdowns, and post a 112.7 passer rating. Yeah, I think he's going to be okay. But what's this mean for the rest of the Packers offense? Well, with Davonte Adams, the Packers offense was scoring 26.5 points per contest. Without Davonte Adams, 31.6. So this offense actually got better without one of their best pieces in play, mostly because Aaron Rodgers is good enough to spread the ball around to his other playmakers. I think he's going to be just fine. If anything, he's got a little bit of a pettiness side to him here. So Aaron Rodgers is going to be looking to pick up a 5th NFL MVP at some point here. Now, even at 38 years of age, I mentioned the 4-time NFL MVP, he can still play 3 to 4 more seasons. Look, Tom Brady, he's 44 years old. He's still playing. Now, that being said, Rodgers has hinted at retirement the last couple seasons, so who really knows? But when I look at Dynasty, when I look at my fantasy football squads, I look at them within 2 to 3 year type windows because nothing is ever guaranteed. Rodgers is still playing at a high enough level right now to help your fantasy squads win some games, get you to some fantasy football championships. Also, he is good enough to bring back some assets in return if you choose to get younger and rebuild. Now, another one of those good assets there in Green Bay is Aaron Jones. Since we talked about Rodgers and Adams and that dynamic there, what can we expect from Aaron Jones now that the all-pro receiver is in Vegas? With Adams, Jones would go on to average 3.9 targets per contest, 2.9 receptions per game, and 21.7 yards in receiving. That loosely translates to 49 receptions, 368 receiving yards over a full 17-game season. Now, without Adams, Jones, he sees an uptick in passing volume there. His targets jump to 6.7, his receptions to 5.1. His average yards per game would jump all the way up to 55.4. Now, if you take that over the same 17-game period and you kind of look at those numbers, that would turn into 86 receptions on 113 targets for 941 yards. Now, however, buyer beware. Not all stats are created equal. You have to look at some splits here as well. If you dive more into these game logs, you will see that a majority of those games without Adams, the Packers were also missing other pass catchers. Robert Tonyan, torn ACL. Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Alan Lazard, they would also miss time last season when Adams was out of the lineup. So there is some reason to believe that Adams' unavailability, we could see a little bit of a uptick in production for Aaron Jones. I would expect a somewhat there, but I don't think it's going to be quite as high as what other people are kind of expecting right now. As for Jones's future, he and Dillon would split carries last season. But to put your mind at ease, even while splitting those carries, Aaron Jones is going to be a PPR factor here. He's going to range that 12 to 15 area there for the next 2 to 3 seasons. Now, let's talk about A.J. Dillon here because he's currently going off as a consensus-rated 23rd running back moving forward. Dillon continued to chip away at Jones's touches throughout the 2021 season as it continued to progress. Sometime around the middle of the season, Jones would suffer a bit of a knee injury that resulted in missed time and seemed to bother him basically from week 9 on. Jones's snap rate would go from 64.9% prior to week 10 to 50.7% after week 10, allowing Dillon an opportunity for a much, much larger role. As for Jones, he's going to continue to be relied on in the passing game, more now than previously before. I would also expect Dillon to relieve Jones in the run game a little bit more, considering how efficient he has been since entering the league back in 2020, averaging 4.5 yards per carry. Jones and Dillon each finished a couple hundred yards shy of 1,000 last season. And if there's any running back duo capable of both reaching the 1,000-yard mark in a single season for the first time since 2009, it's this Packers combination. Now, let's talk about some pass catchers here now. Allen Lazard right now is criminally being underrated as far as the experts' ratings are concerned. He is the wide receiver 61. And did I mention that Davonte Adams is gone? Well, so too is Marquez Valdes-Scantling. There are 248 vacated targets, 2,807 air yards up for grabs for Packers pass catchers. That's 62.8% of the air yards, which is the most in the NFL. And there's good reason to like Allen Lazard's potential production moving forward after only 513 receiving yards a season ago. Green Bay's receivers room is unappealing, for the most part unproven. You've got Randall Cobb, you got Sammy Watkins, and you know how I feel about Sammy Watkins, providing that veteran presence, while Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Amari Rodgers look to infuse some youth into this lineup. Down in the red zone, down in that end zone area there, when Rodgers was looking for someone, it was Davonte Adams or Allen Lazard. Both of them had 11 end zone targets. Rodgers was quoted early here in the offseason, excited about Lazard. He's been our dirty guy for most of his career here. Now he gets an opportunity to be a number one receiver. So I'm not worried about him stepping into the role. If Aaron Rodgers is comfortable with Allen Lazard, you should be as well. Let's talk about some infusion here. Let's talk about Christian Watson here. He is currently going off as a wide receiver 50 in Dynasty rankings per experts. Everything I said about Lazard there, from the vacated targets to the vacated air yards, you can pretty much copy and paste it here for Watson as well. Watson and the rest of the pass catchers in Green Bay have an opportunity to carve out roles for themselves at this receiver position because it is wide open. Watson is a freak when it comes to his athletic traits. His broad jump, that was the 98th percentile. His vertical, 84th percentile. His 10-yard split at the combine was in the 100th percentile over the last 10 seasons of the combine. Watson will see some growing pains as he adjusts from North Dakota State, which has a very run-heavy scheme, to the pros. But you can't deny he has what you can't teach, that size and game-breaking speed. While his immediate impact may not be felt for a year or two in fantasy, Watson gets to develop alongside a future first ballot Hall of Famer, which bodes well for his future development. And you want future development in your fantasy squads? Head to fantasypoints.com today. Use that promo code VIPERS22. And as always, take a second, rate and review us on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. And if you're watching us here on the Vipers Network, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button and get those notifications turned on, because we'll have plenty more content coming your way very soon. See you next time.